Good, happy Monday evening, April 6th, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. We have a lot of news to get to this Monday evening, so let's begin. First up, New Hampshire hotels, Airbnbs, told to end non-essential accommodations to slow COVID-19 spread. Rooms still available for essential workers and domestic violence victims. Hotels and short-term rentals in New Hampshire must suspend all accommodations for non-essential purposes, Governor Chris Sununu announced Monday. Sununu said the restrictions are another step in trying to slow the spread of COVID-19, particularly from other states. The restrictions include rentals from services such as an Airbnb, but does not include campgrounds. Sununu said hotel rooms and rentals can still be available for essential workers, victims of domestic violence, and people who need to quarantine away from their families. Those who are on vacation now can stay in their rooms until the scheduled end of their stays, Sununu said. The new restrictions were announced as state health officials said a total of 715 people in the state have tested positive for COVID-19. Dr. Benjamin Chan, the state epidemiologist, said there has been an average of about 50 new cases each day over the past week. 9 people have died from complications related to the virus in New Hampshire, Chan said. Health officials said about 26% of the positive cases are in healthcare workers. Officials said they are aiming to expedite testing for healthcare workers, and Sununu said the state has procured about 300,000 pieces of personal protective equipment for such workers. Coronavirus in New Hampshire, what you need to know. Let's take a look. $669 number of people in New Hampshire have tested positive for COVID-19. 1,289,380 number of people worldwide who have tested positive. 9 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 92 number of people hospitalized with COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 9,654 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. And this map of New Hampshire shows COVID-19 cases in towns and cities in New Hampshire. Nashua has 66 cases. New cases each day in New Hampshire in the purple, daily new positive COVID-19 cases. In the orange, new hospitalizations, and in the red, deaths. Your common symptoms: fever, cough, and difficult breathing, how it spreads, and prevention tips. Be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for the latest of your COVID-19 information. Mobile COVID-19 testing site in Manchester shuts down because of lack of supplies. Officials say they don't have enough protective equipment and swabs. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
Sean, that's right. The mobile testing site used to be in the corner of the parking lot right here, but this morning members of the Manchester Fire Department took it down. Now, the mobile site had been up and running since March 14th, and about 1,000 people from the greater Manchester area have been tested here. But now those who need tests will have to go elsewhere. In a press release, the Manchester Emergency Operations Center announced the suspension of the testing site, says the decision was made for several reasons, including a shortage of personal protective equipment. The release also mentions the lack of testing swabs and the need to clean and service equipment. Now, people will still be able to be tested in the Manchester area at the major hospitals, along with Dartmouth, Hitchcock, and Convenient MD. And Manchester says it also will continue to operate its COVID-19 hotline for Manchester residents. That number is 668-1547. That hotline is open Monday through Friday from 9 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Reporting live in Manchester, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Employee at New Hampshire State Prison for men tests positive for COVID-19, officials say. Person last worked at facility on March 25th. An employee at the New Hampshire State Prison for men tested positive for COVID-19 last week, according to New Hampshire Department of Corrections. The employee tested positive last Friday, April 3rd. They last worked at the prison on March 25th. The worker did not return until April 1st, when they were denied entry to the facility because they had previously showed symptoms. After the positive test, the worker began quarantining at home, officials said. The scanning process that blocked the employee's access to the facility was put into effect on March 17th as part of the State Department of Corrections coronavirus response. Officials said in the process was put in place to keep staff and inmates safe. Ice out declared on Lake Winnipesaukee. MS Mount Washington can now travel to all 5 lake ports. Take a look at this photo here of Lake Winnipesaukee. Ice out declared. Very cool indeed. It's officially, and it's springtime on the lake. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Monday evening. And here's a look at that U.S. stock market for all of you for this Monday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the green, went up. Your Nasdaq closed in the green, went up. S&P 500 closed in the green, went up. Gold closed in the green, went up. Oil closed in the red, went down. US 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed in the green, went up. And VIX closed in the red, and went down. Stock market. Dow soars 1,600 points as growth rate of new coronavirus cases appears to slow. Stocks jumped on Monday, rebounding from sharp losses in the previous week as the number of new coronavirus cases in the U.S. appeared to slow down. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson in intensive care for coronavirus. Let's take a listen to that video from MSNBC News.
We're going to interrupt things here for a second because we've received breaking news from the UK where British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has been moved to intensive care. We talked earlier in our coverage about his hospitalization because of coronavirus.
And joining us now from London once again is NBC News Chief Global Correspondent Bill Neely. Bill, we were just on a couple minutes ago, and as of then, we were wondering what sort of tests that Boris Johnson was getting. Now he's in the ICU. What is 10 Downing saying?
Yeah, so a statement just within the last few minutes from 10 Downing Street saying that Boris Johnson's condition has worsened and he has been moved to the intensive care unit at St Thomas's Hospital, which is just across the river from Westminster and from where he was until just a few days ago at number 11 Downing Street in isolation in his flat with what he said then was simply a high fever. Well, it's clearly a lot worse than that. He was moved at around 7 o'clock local time, so maybe 1 hour and 20 minutes ago, and the statement just very briefly saying his condition has worsened. Now, we don't know what that means, but if he's in intensive care, almost certainly that would suggest that he has some kind of breathing difficulty and that he may have to be put, if there is one available, on a ventilator. He had tests earlier today. Again, we didn't know what those tests were, but medical experts and sources here have suggested that they would be tests for things like a blood test, a test for any other infection, and of course, testing his heart and his lungs. But a pretty serious development, and the Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, who is effectively his deputy, is now the person who will take charge of all government business. And if Mr. Johnson is in intensive care now, usually patients stay in ICUs in the UK for around 7 days, if not more. So I don't think we will see Mr. Johnson again taking charge, as it were, of government business for some time to come. Now, he's got no underlying health conditions. He is and has been for many years overweight. He's made that quite public, but otherwise was quite healthy. I mean, he's well known as a person who likes to go out and run and cycle, but it is again well known that people who are overweight and who have coronavirus are more susceptible to being taken into intensive care. So once again, just within the last few minutes, a Downing Street spokesman saying that the Prime Minister's condition has worsened, and around 7 o'clock, roughly an hour and a half ago, he was taken into intensive care and is being monitored very closely indeed. Guys?
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this evening edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Monday evening. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. They'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night and bye, everyone.